Well, in other OpenAI news, we've heard that OpenAI is actually getting its own AI chip, its own accelerator chip. So they've sent the designs off to TSMC for fabrication, and they'll be getting their first chips back anytime soon. This is a really significant development for them. It's OpenAI trying to free themselves from the design cycles that go on at Nvidia and have their own design for their own accelerator. So customizing their own hardware accelerator to make their training and their fine tuning of models much more efficient. Now, this is the first chip, and anybody who's gone through hardware development life cycles know that they're much slower than software development life cycles. So, OpenAI is going to continue to be buying GPUs from Nvidia, and your Nvidia stock is still going to remain very valuable. But what we will see is over time, OpenAI will develop these first chips out into something that is much more efficient and attuned to their needs, and where they can customize the chips to match the exact needs they have for their AI training and their building of these very large language models, and then of course the fine tuning of those models and possibly building out the inference. And we may see them build separate chips for inference as well as training. So this move towards controlling their own destiny is absolutely a really significant thing, but it's not overnight. They're talking about having a small number of chips initially, because if there's a fault with these chips over this first design, or if they find inefficiencies in these first designs, they'll want to iterate, and that takes a while to happen. So absolutely awesome to see customized silicon coming back into very strong focus, both here and also earlier in this rundown with Huawei's own hardware acceleration for AI. And I think we are definitely seeing that specialized hardware acceleration as being absolutely vital, simply moving what was a GPU and bending it into doing the things that we want to happen for AI was definitely a good solution at the time, and it may well continue to be a good solution, but there's definitely an opportunity for very specialist accelerators for these large scale out solutions. Stephen, are you excited to see more custom silicon coming into data centers to build AI solutions?
Well, sure. It's something we've seen quite a lot of, as you mentioned, from a variety of companies. The hyperscalers have their own custom training chips. Trainium and Inferentia, for example. I love those names. And we've seen similar tensor processing units appearing, for example, in the Apple M and A series CPUs. One of the early people or early companies to focus on the trend of custom silicon was Google with their TPUs. And the Google TPUs have been quite impressive. I actually have a couple of the Google Coral TPUs that are really useful in doing edge processing of video and so on. I've really enjoyed experimenting those. And there's a connection between that and this announcement with OpenAI. So reportedly, the person that's leading this effort for OpenAI and to develop a custom training chip is none other than Richard Ho, who was the TPU engineer at Google, who led to the development of their custom silicon as well. We've also heard that Broadcom is in the mix, and that may surprise you if you haven't been paying attention to Tech Field Day. But if you have been watching Tech Field Day closely, you've heard that Broadcom actually has a major chip development effort where they work with various companies to develop impressive chips of various sorts, including networking chips, but also including AI chips. So the fact that you've got Broadcom in the mix, that you've got Richard Ho in the mix, the fact that TSMC is going to be responsible reportedly for producing this chip, and the fact that this is not the first time this has happened. In fact, many other companies have done exactly this, makes it all the more likely that OpenAI is wanting to redirect some of the billions of dollars they've spent on Nvidia hardware on their own hardware. But of course, this doesn't spell the end for Nvidia, because Nvidia still produces great hardware and they've got a huge market and they've been able to sell it all over the place. They barely can keep up with orders. So overall, this makes a lot of sense and is not a big surprise. But I think it's a good move, because a lot of people are complaining about the power consumption and the cost of AI, and custom chips so far have been able to make a radical impact in terms of delivering better processing with lower power and lower cost. So I think that's what we're going to see here, and it makes sense that OpenAI would do that, even if they were owned by a potential rival.